Hey everybody, this is Andrew here with Tower Electric Bikes. Today we're going to be walking through how to clean the chain on your Tower Electric bike. Your chain will get, dirty obviously with usage as you ride, and you really want to stay on top of keeping it clean. There's a few reasons why you want to do it. There's the obvious reasons. A dirty chain doesn't look good, and every time you bump your hand against it, it'll get all dirty and gross and leave black streaks on you. So that's sort of the obvious reasons why you want to keep it clean, but also performance-wise, you want to keep it clean. A dirty chain definitely does not run efficiently. You want to typically lube up your chain, make sure it runs nice and smooth. And obviously if it's gunked up with dirt and grime, it's just not going to run through the teeth as well. Depending how dirty it is, it might even stick on some of the teeth. So definitely something to stay on top of. How often you clean your chain is definitely going to depend on how often you ride and where you ride. Most people, I'd say, maybe like once a month or so is probably pretty good. But if you're, riding really, really heavy and you ride in a lot of dirty terrain, you might want to do it a little more frequently, maybe every other week or so. And one of the other things is a clean drivetrain will last a lot longer. The more grime and gunk that's on there, it's going to prematurely wear components. So definitely something important to stay on top of. Now, cleaning it's pretty easy as long as you have the right stuff. I usually like to recommend getting a chain cleaning device like this one here. This one's, it's, if you open it up, you can see it's got a lot of brushes and crevices and stuff to get inside the chain, make sure it gets nice and clean. One of the things I really like is it has this magnet here at the bottom. And what that does is a lot of this grime on there is metal shavings just from metal on metal contact, totally normal. But what this does is it helps drag all that stuff to the bottom and helps at least try to keep it concentrated in the bottom so it doesn't reapply to your drivetrain. So having this is pretty important. There are a lot of other good ones on the market as well. Finish Lines is pretty good. Pedro's has one as well. And the chain cleaning devices definitely make your life a lot easier. Now, there are also like brush sets you can get in lieu of this. The brush sets work pretty well. I do recommend a brush set sort of for cleaning all around your bike, but for the drivetrain, I really recommend one of these. Definitely makes life a lot easier. Another thing you'll need is obviously some degreaser. This will be the liquid that goes in here that actually gets all the grime and gunk off of your chain. I just have the Park Tool one here, but again, there's lots of other good ones on the market. Finish Line makes really good stuff. Muck Off makes really good stuff. I personally like a lot of the citrus stuff. It tends to be a little less chemical-y, has a nice smell, and usually works pretty well. So, and then the last thing you usually want is some paper towel or cloths. This is a very dirty job, and one, you're gonna have to wipe down the bike after all the solvent and everything goes on there. Two, helps keep your hands clean. Now you might notice I am outside on the grass instead of on inside a warehouse or on a nice wood deck. That's because this job gets very messy. So if you're doing this on like concrete or on a floor, on a wood floor or something, you may want to lay down a towel because this stuff is going to splatter. It's gunky, it's greasy, so better safe than sorry. So to start out, all you're going to do is you're going to pop this top off and you are going to slot the chain right on there through all the brushes. Now, depending on the direction you go, will dictate which way you pedal the bike. The Park Tool one's pretty cool. You can do it either way. I prefer this direction because I pedal backwards. Some other chain cleaners can only go one direction, so for that, refer to the directions on your individual chain cleaner. Now, there's also a fill line on here that you might see. Obviously you fill up to that level. The people at Park Tool definitely know what they're doing, so best to abide by that. If you fill it up too much, you're gonna get some spillage, some leakage. And so, just best to follow the instructions. So all we're gonna do is I'm just gonna pour it a little bit too much. Now, not all chain cleaners will have this reservoir at the top. Others will have, you just kind of have to fill it while it's open before you snap it onto the chain. All right. Looking good there. So now that the chain cleaner is snapped on and you have the fluid inside there, now what you do, again, this is the direction based off mine. Other chain cleaners may have you pedal forward, others backward, but for mine, I am pedaling backward here. And from here, you just jam through and keep pedaling until your chain is nice and sparkly clean. Now, one of the things to be careful of when you are doing this is obviously this is hooked to the chain, so if you pull it or move it while you're pedaling, you may end up having it flop off of the chain ring, you may end up having it flop off the cassette. So to try to keep it as straight as possible. And now as you do this, oops, see, just happened right there. Pulled a little bit too far. Pulled a little bit too far to one side and it slipped right off the chainring in the front. Good timing. So one of the things you also might notice is obviously some degreaser will splatter out, some will stay on the chain. So you might have to top it off, you know, maybe about halfway through or so, just to make sure it's continuing to flow through some nice clean solvent. And then really the amount of time that you run it through this chain cleaner really depends how dirty your drivetrain is. You know, if your drivetrain's not that dirty and you're just staying on top of things, you don't have to run it through for too long. The one I have in front of me was exceptionally dirty, so I definitely am spending a little bit of extra time doing it. Want to get all that gunk off of there. You know, we here at Tower by the beach, so stuff gets real sandy and real dirty really easily, so. All right, that chain is looking really good now. All right, and I think that's probably good. So what you're gonna do is you're just gonna unclick this, set it to the side, and you'll definitely wanna wash out your chain cleaner. You can see it's all sorts of gunky and nasty inside there from everything that was on the chain. You know, it's best just rinse it with some water out in the yard, you know, let it sit out to dry. All right, and now that after that's done, what we're going to do is we're going to see it gets everywhere. It's all over the tire and the wheel here, so that's why it's handy to have these cloths to clean up that splatter. So now what you're going to do once you have taken that off is, it might be tough to see in the video, but the drivetrain definitely looks a lot cleaner, but you do notice there is some black liquid here. That's just residual degreaser, and you can see I just wiped it here. You can see the difference through the spots of the degreaser or not. It's sparkly clean now. So what we're going to do is we're just going to grab some more paper towel. You're just going to lightly grab the chain and then just pedal backwards, and you can see all that's coming off. So it's also handy to sort of rotate where you squeeze, you know, squeeze from the sides, give it a few rotations, then squeeze from the top to get the upper and lower parts of the chain, and just continue to do that all the way around. You know, you want to keep doing this until it gets less and less wet. See, and I can already feel now that all that grime and gunk is off of there, this drivetrain is definitely actuating much smoother than it was previously. You'll definitely, you know, depending on how dirty your drivetrain is, you'll probably notice a performance boost, and it may feel a bit smoother for you now that it's all sparkly clean. Whew, yeah, see, that was all on the chain, all on your chain. And now one of the things you'll also find is your chainring and your cassette also get a good dose of the degreaser on there. So it is handy to give them an extra wipe down, because obviously whatever grime is on your chain, it is also going to be on your teeth here in the drivetrain. So best just go around, wipe it down. This is where a brush set really comes in handy. And also there's some other great products, like one of the ones I really like, believe it's from Finish Line, is they call it gear floss, and basically it's like microfiber strands that are sort of woven into these almost looks like shoelace. Basically what you do is you just, after you get everything degreased, you can just floss in between all the teeth and all the different rings. So it's a pretty cool product. I personally like and use it on a lot of my bikes. And you know, it's always helpful to hit the jockey wheels. A lot of people forget the jockey wheels, and I've seen some really gunked up jockey wheels in my time. So always want to stay on top of really all of these moving parts. And I'm going to give the chain one last wipe down here, and we'll be all set. All right, and there we are. It is not quite like a shiny brand new chain, but definitely looks a lot cleaner and a lot better than it did. So typically after this, you know, you do want to re-lube your chain. Lubing your chain is definitely something to stay on top of. It makes the bike feel much better. It also helps it prevents it from getting a little bit dirtier. Now, last thing you want to do is just keep applying lube on top of lube on top of lube. Typically want to clean whenever you're applying lube. You can apply lube like maybe once or like 2 or maybe 3 times, depending on how much you ride in between cleans. But anything more than that, you're just kind of adding gunk to gunk. So definitely important to stay on top of the lube and clean process regimen. So thanks for joining us.